Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good day.
Good to be here.
Good night.
Good tidings we bring.
Good weather.
Good. Oh, no. Goodness.
Yeah, knockness.
Damn it.
I think I actually said knockness then. That was the Loch Ness game. It's not a game and it's not about Loch Ness. Managed to get that in this week.
I know, I remembered to give you the time. Well, if you are listening and if you've made it this far, this is the Benji and Nick Show, your number one podcast in vintage television, TV from the past, TV you might have remembered from the good old days, TV you might have seen and thought, what on earth is that? We have a little look at it, we review it, and we give you our thoughts. What are we doing this week, Nick?
Well, first of all, I thought I'd mention that I'm not Benji.
And I am not Nick.
We're talking about Quatermass and the Pit, the movie,
Yes.
1967. We did do a previous Benji and Nick show where we talked about Quatermass and the Pit, the TV series, didn't we?
We did, yes, and it was interesting watching it again, having not watched Quatermass and the Pit since last watching the TV version. You know, it's sort of weird, isn't it? Like watching an alternative reality of something.
It is. It made 10 years before, Quatermass and the Pit, the movie, came 10 years after, approximately. 9 years, maybe. Our special guest reviewer, Shelley Dean, will be here, of course. If I remember to send her a WhatsApp message. Sorry about the drilling in the background. Someone is fitting guttering to my shed.
We've also got our good friend JB Anderson, who isn't appearing today. He sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. He's actually working for Big Finish at the moment, doing some audio drama direction.
Yeah.
So he's not here, but he's here in spirit. He's asked us to say this. Right, there we go. So,
Good.
Right.
In a moment, your email is sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com.
Yes, and thanks to all of you who've subscribed to us on Patreon. It means a lot to us. It's enabling us to create loads of extra brilliant content, all sorts of things. Also gives you
Cheers to
discounts
you.
on nicholasbriggs.com on loads of merchandise as well. So do check it out if you have a moment, and also check it out on the Patreon because we do loads of different stuff.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's, you get a bit more of your weekly podcast madness.
Yeah, some great recipes going up every month. Benji really, pulled a blinder, didn't you, on the last one? But anyway, that's not out until next month, I believe. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah. So you'll have to wait and see on that one, but it'll be worth it.
Well, if you're one of our Patreon patrons, that'll be tomorrow because you get the podcast in advance.
Very exciting. Well, as well as that, now it's time for us to read out your emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Should I do this first one?
Yes, why not?
This one's from Carl, and it was sent on the 18th of the 1st, 2021, the year of our Lord 459. 459, of course, the year that, I don't know what happened in 459, probably not a lot. My melon can't take much more. That is the subject. Dear chaps, first it was Snickers/Mars bar, or was that Mars, Snickers, Mars, and now it's cap and hats. That's what I take away from recent very fine pods. I can barely remember what show was being talked about. Beasts, available on YouTube. That's what Carl said, not us. It is out there. Because I find myself thinking about Snicker caps/Mars hats. Enough befuddlement there. I'm off to calm my head over a turmeric latte. Yes, very, very extravagant. I've been drinking a lot of peppermint green tea at the moment. Don't know why, just like
You weirdo!
Well, it's like drinking green tea, but without the disgusting taste of green tea.
Yeah.
Taste of
Why not just
peppermint.
have tea?
Because, I don't know, it's just nice to have something a bit different, isn't it, really? Yours in
Something I don't like the taste of. Let's have that.
Yours in telly goodness, Carl, sent from Protonmail. That's a secure Swiss-based email.
I love the fact that you know that. I just thought I'd include that just in case it was of interest, and it was.
I know a lot of things, Nick, a lot of things.
Allow me to take on the interesting task of reading out an email from Thomas Hodden. The subject is utter bungleflump.
Of course it is, of course it is.
He sent this on the 17th of January in the year 1211, which is 1 year later than 1210. Evening all. I'm writing to you on behalf of the Society for the Protection of Cryptids and Mysteries. As you may be aware, the existence of many unknown species now hang by a thread. Whereas ghosts, goblins, aliens and unexplained could once stomp around our green and pleasant land with abandon, the advent of smartphones and all of us having high-quality cameras to hand has put their existence in jeopardy. Any photographs that are taken are likely to be in focus and recognisable, a deadly combination to creatures of folklore. With your help, we aim to move such creatures to safe reserves, where they can linger safely in blurs and shadows. Furthermore, we have ambitious plans to introduce several new species of unknown entity to the southeast of England, which the Society would like to invite you to adopt. The unknown entities, not the southeast of England, I imagine. For your small donation, you will receive an adoption certificate, a stuffed toy, and up to 3 visitations a year to inflict upon your worst enemies, as well as news clippings like this, as well as news clippings of terrified people, so you can follow the cryptid's new career. Currently available for adoption are the following. The underground ursine, a large drunk grizzly bear who holds the platform. That's just like the idea of a drunk grizzly bear. Sort of a... I don't know what I'm doing. A large drunk grizzly bear who haunts the platforms and trains of the Circle Line in the quiet, unsociable hours. I hope he shouts out, "Mind the doors!" He is also more often encountered by people who approach him for an autograph, having mistaken him for Bungle off Rainbow.
Happens all the time.
The Ashford squid. A football-sized cephalopod said to live in the gutters and on the walls of tall buildings in and around Ashford, where it hunts pigeons and occasionally steals away unwatched junk food. Or...
Oh?
The headless mod. A moped-riding anorak-wearing spectre devoid of bonds, who will haunt the roads between Rye, Hastings and Brighton. Oh, that's scary. Hopefully on a route that keeps him well away from the rocker baboon of battle. You must have heard of him.
I know the rocker baboon of battle.
As we certainly do not want a repeat of that unpleasantness.
Interesting enough, I actually thought you were going to make another joke there, because you've got Rye, Hastings and Brighton, and an equidistant was not. The next stop on from Hastings, if you go towards Ashford, is a place called Ore.
Really?
It actually is,
Ore,
yeah.
Has it got an E on the end?
O-R-E, yes.
Yeah,
it is.
I thought so.
There we go. That's a little interesting. Nothing really goes on in Ore, though. In Ore.
The next stop is Ore. Well, make your mind up. Or
That's
what?
what everybody does that when it says, and Ore. Or what? Every time. Without fail, somebody say, or what?
And/or. Yes. Act now. As a bonus token of our appreciation, you will receive a complimentary 8-track of haunting nursery rhymes recorded exclusively by Rod Jane and Freddy Krueger.
Good combination. Good combination. I'd buy it.
Is it Rod Krueger, Jane Krueger and Freddy Krueger, or just Rod Jane and Freddy Krueger? Who knows? Much obliged, as always. T.E. Hodden. Thank you, Thomas.
Always a class act. I'll take the monk. I'll take the monkey.
Do you hear the hammering now? That's the guttering going on.
Oh, the guttering was... Hold on one moment then. If we're talking guttering, that was mentioned in the message as well. It's like he's read your mind. That might be the Ashford squid.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got one here. Programmes review. This one's from Joe, sent on the 11th of the 1st, 2021. In goodness, the year of our Lord, 58. Getting early now, isn't it? Really early. All the emails seem to be very early this time. Thomas Hodden in the lead there in 12:11, 4:59 there for Carl. Now, sorry, I'm getting far too into this. Hello, Benji and Nick. How are you both? Hope you're both well.
I like the way he's put hello Benji plus Nick as well. It's like a sum. Benji plus Nick equals
great television. That was quite good, yeah. Slap that on a t-shirt. Hope you're both well. Being of a similar age as Benji, there are a few 90s programmes that possibly deserve a review.
I don't think so.
Interesting. Depends what they are. The Kids TV, Mud. A really weird, creepy show that I don't think would be made now. From memory, the Earth was destroyed in a voodoo-style needle to model Earth. It starred a very young Russell Tovey. That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't remember Mud, but I do remember this next one, though.
By the way, is that the starting point, the Earth being destroyed, or is that what happens at the end of the series?
I don't know. I've not seen it.
No, yeah. I suppose I wasn't asking you. I was asking Joe Etheridge.
I remember this next one, Aquila, which is a fun sort of sci-fi fun sci-fi kid show from the 90s. The thing that I remember that was interesting about that is the main character of that was the same young voice actor who voiced the main character from Tugs. And I just remember,
well, of
and he's
course
got this really distinctive sort of voice. It's like one of those really weird voices that only one person in the world can ever have.
Well, you can do it.
It's not the same, Nick. It's not the same. But I do remember that. An Aussie kids drama called The Tribe, based on post-apocalyptic virus killed all the adults. I never saw it, but I've always wanted to see that, actually. That's been on my list of things to jump into. Adult shows, of course, Farscape, such underrated sci-fi. We've talked about that plenty lately.
We have.
Love a bit of Farscape.
That's my version of the theme tune.
That's a very good version, actually. Yeah. Farscape, where a scientist who, quite frankly, behaves more like a lavatory attendant, apparently solves an age-old problem of space travel.
Yes, he's a real meathead.
He's a real meathead, isn't he? He's a real turkey Twizzler. Here's one from the 80s, Granada's Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes. I can tell you this one, Joe, that has just appeared on BritBox. Nick's about to sneeze. Oh, and he's
I was yawning. Sorry, not that I'm bored by Sherlock Holmes. I think I've got too much. I think my radiator's on too high.
Oh, yeah, you're trying to warm the cat up, aren't you? Yes. Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes is on BritBox now, so you've got hours of watching that. And
we could certainly do one of those, couldn't we?
Absolutely, and I seem to recall that if you took the Granada set tour years and years ago,
yes,
you would go
Jeremy Brett would just turn up randomly.
He'd just turn up randomly with a little apple and say, "Have an apple." No, I think you go through Commons.
Apple.
I think there's Commons, Downing Street, and I think Baker Street was part of the set tour, and then you ended up on the Corrie set. I didn't do it, but I just, for some reason, know that pointless bit of information.
Let me write that down.
Thank you very much. It doesn't exist anymore. Sorry for the late email. Feeding my newborn twins. Have a great day, Joe. Well, a pleasure. Congratulations on the newborn twins. Thank you for your email.
I just wanted to explain the reason I said Aquila like that. I wasn't trying to correct your pronunciation. I was just because, of course, when you said Aquila, it sounded a bit like that series Quilla.
Quilla, yes, Aquila. No, it probably is Aquila. I can't remember.
Aquila, yeah.
Aquila Godzilla, Thriller by Michael Jackson. That could be a new genre, couldn't it? We could have a radio show where we just say things that rhyme and occasionally elaborate on them. Quilla, Thriller by Michael Jackson. Skiller. Come on, Nick. You've got to find something.
It'd be quite a short radio series, wouldn't it?
Well, no, because it could go on forever. The weather, which is sunny today. Today, pay. Who's going to pay?
In the hay.
That's
the last straw.
Oh, the last straw. I'm up for some more. Have you seen that door? Made of wood. That's just going to go on forever.
It's very good. I just love the way that Joe apologises for the late email. He sent it late, like we'd have to read it when he sent it. You know? So, Joe, could you send it? Every time I receive an email from podcast@nicholasbriggs.com, there's like, ding dong. It just wakes us up.
Stop what you're doing. There's a voice from the heavens. You must answer your emails.
So, I'm going to invite Shelley Dean.
Make sure you send her a WhatsApp message to her email.
Right.
Do you know what theme tune that was?
It was Quilla.
No, I was doing a different one.
it's the two Ronnies.
Well done.
It's almost impossible to do, isn't it? The two Ronnies.
It's too. There's too much.
You can't do
going
it.
on.
It's like also That's Life. Try doing That's Life. That doesn't.
That's
work.
life. How can I think of the song?
Dun, da, da, dun, da, da, dun, da, 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 da,
See, that's a good rendition.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't sound like anything in particular, does it? Shelley, you are invited. What's that? It's all down to the pizzazz of the orchestral arrangement, isn't it?
I miss Telly being a bit like that. Like, Telly had a little bit more style, didn't it? You know.
Yeah, I would like a good theme tune. I've just been watching Iron Fist recently, and I don't skip the intro because it's got such a lovely synth.
We forget that.
music.
You know that's a lost love now because you can now click the button that just says skip the intro or skip the credits.
But we
You
won't
lose
skip
that.
Shelley. Here she
No, we won't
comes.
skip- here she comes from the planet America. It's Shelley Dean.
So there she is.
Welcome, Shelley.
Hello.
How goes it?
It goes well.
Goes. Oh, that's
Yes.
good. Good.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
We could
to
just
hear.
edit that bit in every week, couldn't we, from
Yeah,
a previous
yeah.
podcast?
I don't know
goes.
what to say. It's the same. You know, we're living in this perpetual, like, just frozen time thing with the lockdown and the pandemic and everything. And it's like, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what month it is. So how am I doing? I'm fine.
Yeah, you have to just relate it to this exact specific second in time,
Yes,
as opposed to
yes.
the general
You could just say,
situation, you know.
Don't ask me that. You could say that. I think that'd be
Don't
much
ask
better.
me why.
Don't pry. That's personal.
Don't cry. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nick.
That's too
Yes.
much information.
We're
TMI.
talking about Quatermass and the Pit, the movie. For those of you who don't know, Quatermass, and I'm sure most of you do, it was created by Nigel Neal. Of course, we were talking about Beasts last week, one of his creations. He conceived the character in 1953 when he was assigned in his capacity as a BBC television staff drama writer to create a new 6-part serial to run on Saturday nights in July and August. Neil initially named his leading character, and I did not know this, Professor Charlton. Imagine how boring that would have been. Charlton and the Pit.
Well, at least I could pronounce that one.
Yeah, well, that's true. But during the writing process, he decided to make things difficult for Shelley Dean. He decided he wanted something more striking and memorable and that would trip up Americans. A native of the Isle of Man, Neil was inspired by the fact that surnames beginning with QU were common on the island. The eventual name was picked from a London telephone directory. There was a family by that name who traded as fruitiers in the city's East End. The surname has its origins as a measurement of land assigned to the division of England by the Normans following their conquest of the country under William the Conqueror in 1066. How about
Willie
that?
the Conch.
So is there a Quatermass of, a Quatermass of land? I don't know.
Maybe.
Weird, isn't it? The professor's first name, Bernard, was in honour of the astronomer Bernard Lovell, founder of the Jodrell Bank Observatory. Have you ever been to Jodrell Bank?
I've fallen off it and regenerated a few times. Yeah.
Hey, a bit of a Doctor Who reference.
I
there.
just want to know what a fruitier is.
It's a fruit person, a
Somebody
fruit
who
monger,
picks
fruit
fruit?
sale, yeah.
No, they sell them. It's
They
like
sell fruit.
Fruit, peddler of fruit.
fruit
Gotcha.
shop.
Just fruit, no veg? Just fruit?
Well, that's a really interesting question. Well, no, it's not that interesting, but it is. It's an appropriate question because I think
Yes.
a fruitier possibly does a bit of veg as well.
I mean,
Okay,
perhaps it was a case of back in the day where they had specific. When they sold things off the back of sort of caravans, well, not caravans, carts. Perhaps it was a fruit-centric cart.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm just
quite
curious.
frankly.
Never heard of it.
Sounds like
it
a
might be
market
something I
stall
want to
thing.
be when I grow up. I don't know.
Fruity.
It
I'm
does
always
sound-
looking
sound-
for a new career.
Do you think it sounds like a market stall thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially since it was in the East End of London.
The beauty is you can be whatever you want when you grow up, Shelley. Like William the Conqueror is a fantastic example of this because before he was William the Conqueror, he was William the Bastard. So just goes to show you can go from a bastard to a conqueror in a very
He
short
wasn't
space
William
of
the
time.
fruitier.
William the Fruitier, William Raspberry.
One thing you could possibly argue that in order to be a conqueror, you have to be a bit of a bastard.
Well, quite. Well,
I would
that's
think so.
probably-
Yes.
Can't be
Yeah.
nice, can you, and conquer?
No.
You could be. You know, I don't
Excuse
know.
me, knock, knock. Hello, hi. Yes, I'd like to take you all over now. Thanks.
And
Could
I've
you just
got
step to the side?
several thousand heavily armed men. Is that okay?
Is that okay? Can they come in
I mean,
too?
if we want to talk that though, Hitler did march
Hey,
into the
ding, ding,
Rhinelands.
ding.
He did march
Ding,
into the
ding.
Rhinelands, and they threw roses at him. I suppose. That's
Yeah,
what,
that's-
Ding ding.
Yeah, but there's a
That,
whole
that ding
other
ding is
context
anytime
there.
we mention Hitler because we seem to do it every
Happens.
single show.
We're avid,
Hello, Hitler.
we're avid historians on this podcast. Well, carrying on with the Quatermass and the Pit,
Yes.
it was made by the BBC in 1953. That was followed up by Quatermass 2, and then, of course, Quatermass and the Pit.
Oh, sorry, no. Quatermass Experiment was made in 1953. Sorry, that's my typing error.
That's a type I was going to say. I was getting confused, but reading
Sorry.
that, I was like, what am I?
I thought maybe you were talking about the TV show. The TV.
We are.
Oh,
But it
okay,
was,
so
the
that.
first one was called the Quatermass Experiment. I got that wrong.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Oh dear.
But carry on. We'll just allow that mistake to live as part of posterity.
Part of the gag. Andre Morel was offered the part originally, but turned it down. So Reginald Tate took on the role, but tragically died of a heart attack just 1 month before Quatermass 2 went into production.
Yeah.
John Robinson then took on the role at very short notice, having to read some of his lines off a clipboard. Can you imagine that one? You know, where are you going? Please turn over because please fill in your P45.
Well, that's Marlon Brando method of acting.
That's just shoving loads of stuff in your mouth and going.
He had his lines written on
We
other
know.
people. And
Yeah, anywhere.
Or if you're with
Anyway.
a partner, it's just written on anything as well.
But the Quatermass, certainly Quatermass and Quatermass 2 were performed live. They weren't just recorded as live, they were performed live. And when they did the repeat showing, they had to perform it all again.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Is there any
that's how-
that's
can
how telly
that
used to be.
viewed anywhere at this
Yeah,
point?
they did make tele recordings of Quatermass 2. That exists.
Okay.
And Quatermass and the Pit, there are just various little... I think there's like a couple of episodes, and it looks like you're viewing it through a pinhole camera. It's kind of really weird
Really
and
poor.
ancient. Yeah,
There are photos from it, aren't there? But that's about it, I think, really.
Yeah.
When Quatermass and the Pit was made, of course, Robinson was not available, and this time Andre Morel decided to take on the role, giving a performance that many regard as definitive in the role.
And for the movie Quatermass and the Pit, which we're going to be talking about any second now, Andrew Keir took on the part.
who talks like this.
Who's Scottish, wasn't he? He was also in Dalek Invasion of Earth 2150 AD. It marked a return to form in the role after the two preceding movie adaptations had cast a brash American in the role, Brian Donlevy. Neil said of Donlevy in the part, he was then really on the skids, so didn't care what he was doing. He took very little interest in the making of the films or in playing the part. It was a case of take the money and run, or in the case of Mr. Donlevy, waddle. So Nigel Neal never one to hold back with the critic. I mean, if you ever watch any of the two preceding film adaptations, Quatermass and the Pit, Quatermass Experiment and Quatermass 2, you will notice that Brian Donlevy is spectacularly miscast in the role.
Okay.
Do you know who Brian Donlevy is?
No, I don't.
It might be.
I know he's an
pronounced
American
Donlevy.
actor, that's all, yeah.
He used to play gangsters and tough cops. So he's kind of,
Okay.
he's just, I'm Bernard Quatermass. And you think, no, you're not, though, are you? But, you have to have an American star to get the international distribution deal, and that's the way it worked.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a guide to how to pronounce the name here. Howtopronounce.com says...
It could be Donlevy, couldn't it?
Yes, you're
Donlevy.
right, Brian Donlevy.
Donlevy. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Yes,
Yes.
Another interesting but not that interesting fact is that in the movie of the Quatermass Experiment, the title I seem not to be able to recall at all and keep calling it Quatermass and the Pit, they call it the Quatermass Experiment, starting with the letter X rather than having the word EX.
Makes it slightly exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I
sort of
suppose.
weird hammer movie thing. Anyway, over to Shelley for the plot of the movie Quatermass and the Pit, I believe.
Okay, well, as you guys just mentioned, this is the third Quatermass movie. It was released in 1967, and over here in the U.S., it's called 5 Million Years to Earth. So they changed the title. Well, for all three of them, they did change the titles. But anyhow, so the summed up plot. While digging a new subway line in London, a construction crew discovers first a 5-million-year-old skeleton, then what they think is an old World War II German missile. But upon closer examination, the missile appears to not be of this earth.
Of course it's not, yeah.
So this movie examines the age-old question of how the human race came to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah.
With lots of destruction, aliens, and insects. Very clever.
Insects with little teeny tiny little arms.
And Shelley, you have to watch the original TV series because
I think it would help me a lot.
Oh, Kat has arrived.
Oh,
Kat has
goodness.
just leapt up on the table. Sorry
You're
about
familiar.
that. Hello.
He's
Sorry.
Oh, that's so cute. That is
well,
Nick's neighbor's cat who has adopted the Briggs family as his own.
Yeah, if you need anybody to look after your animal, just send them to the Briggs residence. They'll take it on.
She has been lying down quite happily by the door. I think that you want to be let out. That's what's going on here, isn't it? Yeah. Shall I let you out? Was I saying anything interesting? Maybe if you could detach your claws.
About the original, weren't you?
Yeah, you were telling me I need to watch the TV series.
You absolutely do.
And I really want to.
Because it's better. The unbelievably, even though it had a really much lower budget and less technical advancements available, the effects are sort of better in the TV series. Certainly the design of the arthropods is better. Anyway, I'm just going over to the door to let the cat out.
Unbelievable.
Guinness, it's all about you, buddy.
So
is Guinness a boy or a girl? Do we know?
It's
a girl. Okay. I don't know why Guinness just seems like a masculine name.
Yeah, because it's blokes who drink it in pubs, isn't it? Yeah.
Rah, I'm having a Guinness. Rah. I miss Guinness.
Of London pride. Yes.
Well, anyhow, so yeah, I do want to see the TV series just because I feel like with more time that I would understand it better.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I do have to tell you is this was a movie that I had to watch twice.
Wow.
I watched it once and I found myself very confused. So I read the wiki description of, they do a really great breakdown of everything that happens. And I went, I missed all of that. And so then I immediately rewatched it, knowing now what I knew. And again, I don't know if it's just like my brain fog that I wasn't able to grasp all of it, or the copy that I was watching with the audio was really muffled. So a lot of what was said was missed for me.
Oh, right, okay. What sort of things did you miss?
I missed a lot. I missed a lot of the when they got to, and I will admit I was quite bored in the beginning before all the fun stuff started happening. But when they were talking about the history of that area, the history of Hobbs Lane, and
Yes.
when Barbara started talking about what Hobbs was referring to the devil, and then they just went down that and got they went to the library or the whatever, the Latin reading guy, and they got all the information about all the stuff that had happened, and a lot of that I just missed. And so that became, the second time around, I really was fascinated by all of that, because that brought into it for me an actual thing that I really, really enjoy and I'm really into, which is that aspect of it, the paranormal aspect of it. So not just the space aliens.
I was going to say, I thought that might appeal to you. With horror bent. Yes.
Yeah. And I did, and one of the other things that I missed was the drill guy, his vision. When he was explaining the vision he had, I totally missed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was
sound
a big.
Must have been very bad.
It was like that.
Wonder why
and
was
then
that bad?
Maybe because I the download. I don't know.
Well,
Or maybe
weird.
my TV. Maybe I don't know. But
you managed to catch it all the second time.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm glad I rewatched it because I had a different perspective on the whole thing the second time through. So it
There's
was
a lot
really
to take in. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think once you get into the whole, like, the way in which it works, and it's kind of that, the operation is going ahead and they're all down there, and it's that wonderful sort of, I don't know, it's a bit of a slow burner in that respect, which I think is actually really lovely and works
Yeah.
really well with the film.
They just put in there's so much because it's like, is it this? Is it this? Is it that? They all these different hypotheses of what this is. And I got lost in a lot of Quatermass's jumping to what the skeletons meant and why they were. I don't know if I should give away anything, but I don't.
Yeah, go on.
But he jumped right to, well, they must have been coming to Earth and taking the apes back and then programming them with more intelligence and then sending them back to Earth. And I just thought, how did he jump to that?
Well, I would say it is a bit of a jump, and I think it's a jump because so much plot has been condensed. But they do have bigger craniums, so there seems they don't fit in the normal pattern of development. That was his thesis, and they were found inside the spaceship. So
that I got,
he thinks, yeah. So that's why he jumped to that conclusion.
But I get the abduction idea, but the brain scanning and then putting them so they were colonizing in their own way Earth because
that's I'm not sure, but the time he says this, it's because we've had evidence that human beings are seeing the ancient experiences of Martians, so he thinks it's a race memory.
Gotcha.
So that's when he makes the link.
I mean, it is his job to
I
make those links. That's what he's there for. So he's probably going to have lots of theories.
He's sort of proto Doctor Who, isn't he?
And in my defense, I don't know the character, so I don't know what he has done previously until this point.
He's previously been involved with 2 attempts to invade the Earth by aliens.
Okay.
So he's kind of thinking it that way.
Yeah.
In the Quatermass experiment, a rocket came crashing back to Earth, and only one of its 3 astronauts was present, who was behaving most oddly. And then under questioning, it seemed that one surviving astronaut was the other 2 astronauts as well. That just gives me creepy hairs on the back of my neck. He starts speaking German, doesn't he? Which one of the other astronauts was? But then you find some kind of alien parasite got into the capsule. And he starts mutating, and the idea is this thing just becomes a huge blob that will project spores all over the Earth and smother the Earth.
Nice.
The second one is about aliens doing a similar thing, isn't it? Actually,
it's all quite similar, to be honest. And they're all the same sort of types of ships as well, sort of tube-like sort of structures,
Well, I mean, the first one is a rocket from Earth. And the second one is to do with a sort of food creation station where they're basically going to make food out of human beings to feed aliens. But it was all based around the paranoia of the new towns that were being built back in the 50s. And it's this new, ultra new modern town. But Quatermass goes there and finds it's got rules of its own. And you know what I mean? It's got its own police force and everything. Right. And it's to do with that's more of an invasion of the body snatchers thing. And everyone who's been infected by these aliens, where it sort of bursts out of a little capsule and gets people, they have a scar where it attacked them. So he starts discovering people in Whitehall who've got scars on their face, and they're sort of oddly insistent about everything being all right. So it's more of a takeover thing, I think.
They're terrific stories. They are terrific. Those if you're presented with those on a bit of paper, you're going to just say absolutely. Yeah. And let's do this.
And Doctor Who was heavily, those people who wrote Doctor Who were heavily influenced by Quatermass. Quatermass in Britain was the streets were deserted when it was on. everyone stayed in to see Quatermass. It quickly, I mean, it got recommissioned twice, and the only reason it didn't carry on is because Nigel Neal was a miserable old so didn't want to do it anymore. He said he's already saved the Earth 3 times. I think we're pushing credibility here, not taking any notice, of course, what happens with Doctor Who, where he saves the Earth or the universe or the galaxy or a planet every week, kind of thing.
Well, this is interesting because it was, prior to me watching this, Nick, you were mentioning about how you had a discussion. Was it with Steve?
Well,
Moffat,
Stephen Moffat in a DVD or Blu-ray extra says this. It's not something he's personally said to me, but yeah, go on.
About how this is very much Doctor Who, the unit years as such. The Third Doctor stuff is very much sort of inspired.
Well, he thinks that the
film.
He said he wouldn't be surprised to learn if the people who created the Jon Pertwee era of Doctor Who, Barry Letts and Terence Dicks, hadn't been influenced by watching the movie of Quatermass and the Pit. He said because it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And it is, and that's what I was really going to say, is that watching it with that in my mind this time round, and it was just uncanny watching it. Everything made perfect sense. This chap, this sort of slightly eccentric doctor-like chap, they're working alongside the military, and so you've got that level and the skepticism between the military figures, it can't possibly be this, and the slightly quirky scientist saying, no, you have to understand it is, and of course you've got the brilliant plot device, I suppose, dare I say, of having the soldiers there, the sort of expendable characters, in order to basically convey a point. It works really well, and once you watch that, it's very hard not to see that when watching this.
Yeah.
But the thing about this film is it's like putting on an old pair of socks, really. You just kind of know it, and it's comforting, and it's like, it's just one of those films. The second you see a screen capture of it, just a picture of it, it's Quatermass and the Pit. Just a great film.
For me, the interesting thing I discovered this time round is that I thought, goodness me, I know this film so well, it's almost impossible for me to feel the dramatic effect of it. I'm because I just know it. But having said that, every time I rewatch the original TV series, I get totally wrapped up in it. And there's something about the starkness of the TV series and the real power of Andre Morel's performance, which is, Andre Morel was an incredible actor, actually, real old school, but he had an inner realistic passion in spite of the kind of old way of talking, the way that old actors spoke in those days. It's all slightly
there was a believability to him, though.
Totally.
That he really knew his stuff. Personally for me, it's not that I'm not a fan of Andrew Keir's stuff, but I don't take him that seriously. I just don't. And
he's not got the charisma somehow, has he? He's not really. Whereas Andre Morel, you just looked at him the whole time. Whereas Andrew Keir, he's perfectly fine in the part. I think he acquits himself
he does
honourably.
The job.
Yeah.
He does the job.
I can say I didn't feel like he was the lead.
Exactly.
In this.
Exactly.
I just didn't. He wasn't the most important character, as far as I was concerned.
Barbara
my
Shelley,
perspective is different. She was amazing. I loved her.
She is such a charismatic stage presence, film presence, screen presence. But interestingly, her character is nowhere near as significant in the TV series, is she, Benji?
No, not at all.
The character exists, but she's very much. But the Hammer, bizarrely, if I can mansplain this, bizarrely.
Please, I need you to.
Let me just stop you there, shall
Yes.
I? Bizarrely, it was Hammer's sexism and an interest in titillation, virgins being bitten by Dracula, that kind of thing, and Barbara Shelley
played very attractive women and all that business.
Yes, they obviously, the Hammer production builds up the female part because they want the glamour.
Right.
So, and Barbara Shelley had a history of doing horror movies, I think, as well. And so she's a real... it's a terrible, sexist, old-fashioned thing to say, but she is kind of what people would have once upon a time termed as posh totty. She's a classy, intelligent lady, but by God, she's sexy as well.
Yeah,
and
super hot.
Equally, she over-delivers, though, in the sense that what you're getting is that, yes, but through her great charisma, fantastic acting, and great judgment of the role, she just makes it so much more.
She absolutely does. I was going to say,
integral.
if you counted her lines, she doesn't have that much to do in this film, and then they just turn her into someone who's possessed, who he punches her later.
It's like brutal, isn't it? As well, I sent you a video of that last night. I was watching the end sequence. I forgot about that bit.
Benji said they were doing a dance and she got one of the steps wrong, so he punched her.
That's how it ends. It always does. Always does.
So it's interesting because very much Dr. Roney was Quatermass's buddy in the TV series, played by an American actor. Funnily enough, Roney was an American in the British TV series, and it's very much them together battling against it, and she's just on the edge. She is. I mean, the character still has a lot of integrity, but she was a woman in the man's world that Nigel Neal was writing for, and I don't think Nigel Neal ever wrote anything pioneering for women in the Quatermass stories. But even if he had done, I'm pretty certain people at the BBC would have said, grabs pipe prop, I think there's rather too much of the woman in this. I think that what we really need is a strong father figure. It's that sort of. It just wouldn't have been allowed, really, because people didn't think that's the way the world worked. And of course, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the punching her in the end, I didn't really
or
get
in the face.
I didn't really get the ending. It all of a sudden the credits started rolling and I was like, hello?
It's one of those.
Hello?
It's an open-ended.
I'm like, did they save the world?
Yes.
Did they? And what was that thing? An actual thing, or was it a projection? What? I just was confused. But again, I was in a brain foggy sort of place in the moment. So
it does go a bit wacko towards the end. It's the
chaos.
same.
It's absolute chaos.
It's the same in the TV series, except the projection thing is even less distinct, isn't it? I think it's just like a blob, isn't it? It's not even got a shape.
With horns.
Yeah.
I don't think it even has horns.
It's very, very, very vague, isn't it? Very
They couldn't
vague.
manage it. And what they did is they just chucked a chain with something up in the air. for
the iron and that was something weird, that it was like, well, the devil was defeated with iron. I was like, huh? That's a story I don't know.
Let's type that into Google, shall we? Devil defeated with iron.
I just think it was so like werewolves in silver and, vampires and wooden stakes. I was just like, devil and iron. But
the devil in iron. Oh no, that's from a game, Conan Exiles. Iron in folklore. Here we go. Devil. Once a reputed origin of the tradition of lucky horseshoes is the story of Saint Dunstan and the devil. Dunstan, who had become the Archbishop of Canterbury, was a blacksmith by trade. The story relates to how he once nailed a horseshoe to the devil's hoof, and when he was asked to reshoe the devil's horse, this caused the devil great pain, and Dunstan only agreed to remove the shoe and release the devil after the devil promised never to enter a place where a horseshoe is hung over the door. What a load of old codswallop.
Do you think that's what Quatermass is referring to? But he's also talking about dissipating the energy of it, shorting it out to the earth.
Right,
somehow.
Grounding it to the earth, because the crane was touching the earth. And
poor old Dr. Roney heads straight into it. That's one of the really powerful moments as you see him sort of bearing down on it, and the model blows up. But Roney, doesn't Roney survive in the TV series? I'm not sure.
I can't remember. It's been ages since I watched it. Well, since we last watched it.
Well, it was on the BBC iPlayer for quite some time, just relatively recently, so I took the opportunity to watch it again. I have got it on DVD as well, though. Any other comments, folks? I've got loads to say, but I realise, as per usual, I'm talking too much.
Well, just one of the things I think I mentioned last week when we said we were going to be watching this was that and it was mentioned earlier that how much influence this movie had on other writers and other filmmakers. And one of the ones that I had said that Stephen King wrote a whole novel called the Tommyknockers based on that, and I hadn't remembered. I just knew that there was some sort of alien taking over people type of thing, and so I did a little research on it, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's something found in the ground that is alien crap that seeps out and starts infecting the people. And I thought, that's dead on. So it was fascinating to me because having been, like I said before, a huge Stephen King fan my whole life, that now having those two little worlds married, it was kind of fun for me.
Isn't John Carpenter quite influenced by Nigel Neal as well? Well, of course,
it wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
Because the Halloween film was written by the third Halloween film was written by.
It would make sense then that
Nigel Neal,
getting him involved, isn't it? You know, there is perhaps that level of admiration there for his work. Isn't
there also someone told me that the Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter movie, is heavily influenced by Nigel Neal as well. Someone told me that. I don't know whether that's true.
I believe, didn't Hammer Films make a movie, Prince of Darkness? I thought I saw that on the wiki.
But I don't think that's to do with
it.
I don't think it's an entirely original title. I'm thinking of the 1987 supernatural horror film directed written and scored by John Carpenter and starring Donald Pleasance, Victor Wong and Jameson Parker and Lisa Blount. That sounds like a completely made up name.
Only one name I recognize in all of those names.
What was it?
Donald Pleasance.
Oh, thank goodness.
That's the only one I reckon. Yeah, he's the guy from Halloween.
Indeed.
Yes, he is.
Another film directed by John Carpenter.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, I think the adaptation of Quatermass and the Pit in terms of plot, controversially, isn't entirely successful here. And I think we're saying that Andrew Keir, I know you said Andrew Neil, who's a news presenter here, sorry, with a toothbrush for hair, he, allegedly. We're saying that he's not even... I mean, he is the only person to play Quatermass twice because they did a BBC radio thing, didn't they? And they got Andrew Keir in to play Quatermass again. But Quatermass is the part that, in its essential forms, has only been... Oh no, Brian Donlevy unfortunately played it twice. Yeah, and they did a final Quatermass thing in 1978 or 79 or 77, I can't remember which of those 3 years, starring Sir John Mills. You've heard of Sir John Mills, have you?
Sir John Mills,
no.
Yes.
You've never heard of John Mills?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. It's just like he was a hugely famous movie star.
I'm making sure I've got the same person in my head.
I'm horrible with names.
Okay, but he's like
horrible.
One of the most famous people in the history of cinema.
I gotta look at a picture of him.
It is. He was in. I'm sure it's the right one. Yeah, Goodbye, Mr. Chips.
Who was?
Isn't he? Oh, John Mills.
And loads of other films. That's not the most famous one.
No, it's not the most famous one. It's just the first one that came to the Cold It story, which I was watching a couple of days ago actually, which I recorded over Christmas. Not as good as I remember. Not even gonna joke about it. It's a bit, don't know, very tame. Around the World in 80 Days, the original Dunkirk, Swiss Family Robinson. Trying to think of maybe there's something in here that Shelley will... Gandhi, 1982. You must have seen Gandhi, Shelley.
When I was a kid.
When the Wind Blows, yes.
He's the voice,
Zolo Dawn.
He's very good.
I decided to...
In Which We Serve.
In Which We Serve,
was he in that?
Yes. Yeah. In Which We Serve, yes, he was, 1942. Yeah.
Well, Noel Coward was in that as well.
Noel Coward.
You've heard of Noel Coward?
Yeah, please say you've heard of Noel Coward.
Yes, I have.
She's only saying that because we said please.
Noel Gallagher?
No, I know who Noel Coward. He was in. John Mills was in Who's That Girl?
Who's that girl?
Madonna.
Oh right, was he really? How bizarre! Yes. Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in eons, but I'm sure once I see it, I'll go, oh, that guy.
I dare say he would not have liked to have been remembered for that film.
That guy, that bloke.
Also, worth mentioning that the music for...
I was going to raise that point. Yeah,
film Quatermass and the Pit was by Tristram Carey, who wrote the electronic score for the Daleks, the first Dalek story in Doctor Who.
Pioneer of electronic music as well.
Real pioneer, and completely different style of music. You know, very, very orchestral. Although presumably he did all the weird electronic stuff as well.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I think I mentioned this before on the Dalek thing. He used to do a lot of his equipment was made from old post-war radio technology and other bits that he cobbled together himself. Very competent, musician in his own right.
Oh,
and did loads
talented.
of stop music and all sorts of stuff. He's just one of those pioneers at the time that went on to do an awful lot.
I have to say, I prefer the Radiophonic Workshop sound effects for it back in the day.
Oh, but then they're going to be vastly superior, aren't they? Because it's that's a very specific niche that they nail perfectly.
Yeah.
But no, I'm giving it, for me, in terms of my summary of this, it's a 4 out of 5 for me. Because it isn't a perfect film, but I do enjoy it a lot, and I find it, it's just a nice, comforting bit of telly to watch, really.
Yeah, I'd give it 4 as well. 4 exclamation marks out of 5.
And I'm going to go with 3 because I had to watch it twice, and that's all on me. But so yeah, I can't give it anything higher than that.
We should make it a rule that every extra time one has to watch something,
you
take an
star.
exclamation off, exclamation mark off.
Exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had to watch this 5 times. I really loved it. But I had to watch it 5
0.
times, so it gets to 0.
And if you turn it off, then you automatically move to take 2 off as well. I think is fair.
It's 3.
Or
No,
we'll
if you,
go with Nick's
3.
theory. If you can't watch it past 10 minutes, you have to
Can't
give
watch
it a
it.
3.
3. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the old right in
That
the
was
middle.
my old film review.
Which can work in favour, because if something's truly diabolical and you don't finish the end, it still gets an all right review. So
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
I told you all
Because you
about
can't
how
really
I-
base an opinion on it if you actually haven't watched it. So.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop a lot of people, like,
Of
the
course
banning
not.
of Life of Brian. Loads of people said it was unacceptable and had never seen it. I told you how I used to stay awake during really bad films when I was a film reviewer, did I? Yes. I had 2 methods. Method 1 was quite easy, which is I used to chew gum. It's very difficult to nod off if you're chewing gum. But if the film gets really, 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 really boring and chewing gum can't do it, then you have to start pulling the hairs out of your leg. That's what I used to do.
Oh, God.
I used to
I was
sit
going to
there.
make a joke and say electric shock therapy, but damn.
Just sit there picking at my trousers, causing myself agony to kind of shock myself back into...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Either that or you could spill your drink down yourself.
But you
just
do
to
that
add.
anyway.
I do that anyway, yeah. That's why it's not a problem for me. I suppose that's being a film reviewer, isn't it? That's why I don't do it, because if I don't like something, I just walk out because I can't be bothered to waste that time. I'd rather just do something else.
Life's too short to waste that precious time.
It is, why do I want to sit here and watch, what was that rubbish film that I remember watching once?
So rubbish you can't remember it.
Sands of Time, the Dagger of Time. It was I can't actually remember it, but I remember
Dagger of Time.
I remember we were really young at this point, and it was like some rubbish film, Prince of Persia. It was rubbish, and the cinema that we went to. This is such a horrible story thinking about it. It's really very immature. The old cinema that we went to, they used to have an interval midway through the film.
Yes.
And so we were young kids then, and so in the interval we went out. We knew a shop that we got served at, so we just bought a load of cider, went back in, and then just got really drunk in the second half, and I think ruined the film for a lot of people, which isn't very good, so I don't condone doing that. But it got me through the film, I can tell you.
Yeah,
got me to the
you're
end.
all right then.
Yeah, dreadful. Now listen,
Ill-begotten, misspent youth.
That's what being a kid is all about. Well, listen, we've got to decide on next week's one, and we've come to a decision, haven't we?
Yes.
The committee has gathered.
Well, it's going to be the Third Man TV series.
Thirdman.
It's a real oddity that's been brought to our attention by Loch Ness tier patron for our Patreons, Chris David. One of Chris's perks is to have a monthly Zoom chat with us all. Yeah. It's frankly one of the highlights of our month. You get a sort of your own personal Benji and Nick show. And that's for the Loch Ness tier patrons. All right. Anyway, so yeah, The Third Man in an episode with guest stars Roger Moore and Jean Marsh. I can't find out the title of the episode. Did anyone find out? But I noticed this one had Roger Moore and Jean Marsh in it.
Let's have a look. The Third Man, Roger Moore. Yeah, it's interesting doing those video chats, actually, because it is a bit like that. You kind of, because we didn't know quite what we were doing, what to expect. It was very, very pleasant sitting and talking telly with somebody else and having a different perspective on TV. It was actually really interesting. I believe the episode in question is called The Angry Young Man.
Oh.
Harry investigates the supposed suicide of a friend and he suspects murder. The man had a son who hated him, an employee who may have been leeching off of him, and a new wife played by Hazel Court. There we go.
Yeah, and Jean Marsh turns up in it as well, who Doctor Who fans might know as Sarah Kingdom, or indeed, is it Morgaine in...
She was indeed, yes, in Battlefield. Yeah. So... an interesting one that Chris brought to our attention. I mean, who would have thought they'd made a TV series spun off from the movie The Third Man? Anyway, Michael Rennie is playing The Third Man in it. Yeah. So how many years did that go for? 6 years. It's a good amount of time, actually, isn't it, really?
And with the oddity that it was originally made in America and then they shifted production to Britain. Weird.
Very bizarre.
That's a rare thing.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it
Usually
Hollywood.
we steal everything from you guys.
So what happens?
Yeah. The Office. I actually discovered, and I don't have my list in front of me, but there was a bunch of American TV shows from the early years that I compiled a list because I wanted to start bringing on more American shows for us to watch and for you guys. And so I created this list, and then all of a sudden I discovered that a good third of them originated in England. And then they came over here, and I was like, well, never mind on those. But it was just because I never knew.
You can't shock us that easily.
Yeah, there were so many of these shows that I just didn't know. And for next week, if I remember, I'll come up with a list of what they were called in your country, and then what they became in our country, because they were different names.
That'd be fascinating.
Yeah, I was blown away by how many were British TV shows first. But
well, that's sort of a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But this particular Third Man started here, and then you guys took it.
Yeah, I think it was still made by the same company. They just decided to... I don't know, it's weird. Anyway,
we
can discuss that more
why.
next week. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's time for us to get close to the microphone.
Yes.
And I'll just jump in there and say, don't forget to send your emails to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. And it's goodbye from me, Nick B.
Make sure you send over your subs as well. So please subscribe, like, comment, subscribe to all that jazz, whatever you can, and share the word. Spread it around. Let people know that this is a podcast for vintage television. My name's Benji. Good B.
And I'm sorry I jumped the gun there, and I just also want to, because I was going to say that. I didn't know that you were going to say it, because I thought I was going to say it.
Can I say it as
well? But I also want to add, if you want to give us a good review, that would be a great thing, because it would increase our percent, like the viewership brings us to the top of the tier. So if you want to go on to any of the podcast platforms that you listen to, go ahead and give us a review. And for me, Shelley Dean, it's bye.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.